And then there's people who have never been here, who have read maybe one of my LinkedIn posts that's happened, or they've read an article, or they saw a video on YouTube, and they're like, I'm moving to Sardinia. Like, not even, I want to, like, okay, like, love the energy, but like, maybe we should slow this down.
Do you want to be better with money, but dread the math? I get it. That's why this show is not focused on math, the markets, meme stocks, or even economic predictions. It is focused on how money fits into your daily life, from having healthy money conversations to caring for an aging parent. I'm Coyne, certified financial planner professional and your host of Money Without Math. Join us for conversations that are practical, sometimes philosophical, and always fresh. Learn more about me at raymondjames.com/clarity, and be sure to subscribe. Have you ever dreamed about relocating abroad? Some research shows that as many as 34% of Americans would relocate abroad if they could. Concerns about quality of life and cost of living are driving a record number of Americans to call someplace other than the U.S. their home. It can be done, though it's not cheap or easy. Joining us to discuss this today is guest Michele Collu. He's the co-founder of Sardiamo, a real estate and relocation agency located in Sardinia. Yes, that Sardinia, Italy, the Mediterranean island, the one that's also very well known as a blue zone for longevity. Michele and I will be discussing considerations in relocating, whether you are retired, if you're still working, and some of those steps involved, particularly as they apply to the real estate aspect, and reviewing expectations if you might be heading in this direction. Welcome, Michele.
And Karen, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
This is such a timely topic. I feel like I'm hearing more and more, just as I mentioned in the intro, I'm hearing more and more people talking about doing this very thing about relocating or retiring abroad. So,
yeah, I can confirm that we've been doing this since 2021, but in the last 2 years from the United States, there's definitely been an uptick in requests. So I'm not surprised that you're hearing more and more about it.
Yeah. So let's start at the beginning, because I think the work that you do will help really set the context for this conversation. So can you tell us a little bit about your work and how it is that you help people who are looking to relocate?
Sure. We are a family-based business. We're relatively small. We're 3 people. It's myself, my mother, who's a realtor of 40 years of experience, and my sister, who has a background as a tech executive. I'm an attorney. As of 10 years ago, I also turned to tech business development. Now I also run sales for a legal AI company, as well as doing Sardiamo. What we offer folks is 2 things: is local knowledge, but qualified local knowledge coming from us as a family. We have relocated abroad over the course of 20 years. I've lived abroad for study and work for a number of years. So as my sister, we've relocated as a family in the past. We've bought real estate. So we felt that we had a good handle on what would be needed for people to successfully make the move here. And we're coming at an angle where we're sort of combining hard skills in the legal profession and the real estate profession with more of soft skills in terms of, like, we really know where people are coming from. And so our unique position as natives with an international exposure allows us to mediate and facilitate the project and progress of people who are taking this journey. As you said, it's complicated. It's a major life choice. So to answer your question, the first part is the evaluation phase. Everybody likes the idea. Everybody likes the idea of going to a beautiful island in the middle of the Mediterranean in Italy. So drums up a lot of wonderful images in people's minds. But then you have to make it happen. And first you have to understand if it's for you. Because again, just liking the idea isn't enough. There is a wide range of variables that go from personal to professional to even just cultural that you have to weigh up and understand before you can actually say, I'm grabbing my family and I'm moving, or, me and my partner are moving over. We're determined. So a big part of this is giving them guidance on how to look at this, what to be careful about, some points that we've seen over and over people struggle with. So we want people to know early on, this will happen. This will be the case. Are you okay with that? We are obviously there to support them along the journey, but there's certain things that hit you directly. And so you have to be happy and ready to do. And then once we've nailed that down and someone's sure they want to do it and they're ready to make the move, then we project plan with them so they can actually have a secure pathway to execution. Now, that's not to say that whatever we come up with doesn't then require tweaking or change over, because unpredictability is the norm in these type of scenarios. But again, through experience, through having it done ourselves, and now having helped over, I think, 50 people relocate at this point, we have a good handle of like what could possibly happen and what we can do when that occurs.
And, it's wild because when I first learned about your business, I thought, I cannot believe that a place as beautiful as Sardinia, with its rich culture and delicious, cuisine, the breathtaking views, I couldn't believe that it wasn't already overrun with people. But here, they're trying to bring more people into Sardinia, actually.
Right. That's a great point. And it's the reason why we're doing what we're doing, is because we noticed that, so Sardinia, in my opinion, and I say this often, is probably tapped into 10% exaggerating of its potential. First of all, it's a very big island. It's the second biggest island in the Mediterranean after Sicily. But we only have a little bit, like close to 1.5 million registered residents. Many of these people are registered in Sardinia, but actually live elsewhere or live most of their life elsewhere. Density of population is very low. And we have a demographics problem. We're reaching negative birth rate. It's been historically a place that people move out of in search of opportunity and never come back. I used to be one of those people.
Right.
I left very young. I went to middle school and high school in the UK. Then I returned to Italy, but I moved to Milan. I went to law school in Milan. I became a registered attorney over there. Then, Milan wasn't enough anymore. I moved to California. I got an LLM from Berkeley, and I stayed in the Bay Area for 5 years working for startups, came back and moved to Berlin. So, my trajectory was still far away from Sardinia. I would come back on holiday in the summer, like everybody loves to do. It's a wonderful place to spend your summers. But I didn't really have a path to coming back. Then a number of things aligned, and I decided to return. And that's when the idea came. It's like, well, how do I promote the idea of making this a long-term place, not just somewhere you come for a few weeks a year to be at the beach, but moving here, partially encouraging others like me to move back. But I think that won't be enough. We really need more people to move in and sort of revitalize a lot of the municipalities that have lost many residents. Young people especially leave, and there's older, more senior people that are living there who are aging, and they're not going to get any younger, and kids aren't being born. And so the truth of the matter is that we're in great need of people. Of course, this needs to be done, I think, in a deliberate way where we're attracting people who can really appreciate what we have to offer, which is a lot, as you were saying. But it also takes a certain type of person to make that transition and be happy with it.
Right.
And about it. So there's a number of things that need to line up that are non-trivial. Now, people, they say, wow, aren't you worried that, one day people are not going to like the fact that you brought so many new residents? Well, first of all, Sardiamo as a reality manages anywhere between 5 to 10 clients. We work very, very bespoke, sort of like white glove service way. So we're not looking to serve thousands of people. I also don't think that, in all honesty, you can easily make that placement of people successfully if you're dealing with high volume. It just requires a lot of care and attention.
Sure.
But at the same time, again, I think the island is big enough that there's space for everyone. And if anything, it requires a creative thinking, even from local authorities and administrations in areas that are currently overlooked, but they have a lot to offer to someone who's coming from outside, who's looking for precisely that, high quality of living, healthy surroundings, nature. The reasons that actually drives some of the young people here are the reasons that attract others, because, when you're born into a place that it's wonderfully isolated and pristine, as a young person, you may want to run out of there and see more of the world. After all, you were born on an island, right?
Yeah.
But others who are coming from more stressful environments, they actually would love to have that in their life. And so it's really just a way of matching the opportunity with the right people. And within Sardinia itself, there is hundreds of different options in terms of lifestyle. We always like to say that Sardinia is a continent in and of itself. To give you perspective, some people told me, look at what happened in Bali. Sardinia is over 4 times bigger than Bali. Just to give you perspective. So it's not this tiny, tiny island that people may want to think about. It's actually a pretty large island. Now, will there one day be this problem? Possibly. I think we are very far away from it.
Away.
And, attracting people of this type is only a benefit at this historical time.
So with that, okay, like you said, they need people to come to the island. There are a number of pathways and incentives as well, right, for people to relocate, in particular to Sardinia.
Yes. So Sardinia is part of Italy. So the national rules apply. The avenues to moving here are the same ones that you have for the rest of Italy. The programs are primarily, if we're talking working or not working population, there are 2. One is you come for work-related reasons. As a worker, you need a job offer from an Italian company or the Italian office of an international company. There's a way today with outsourced payroll companies to also say, I can have a payroll, like salaried contract through one of these, Deal is one of them that comes to mind, but this type of services where it could work out. It's a little bit more work from an immigration standpoint, but it can be done. Now, if you or your spouse hold citizenship from any other EU country, then good, you can make that work. But if not, you need a job offer if you want to come as a worker. Now, Italy also offers a program for non-working residents, and that is the elective residency program. That means you're electing to live here, you make Italy your residency, but you don't work here. Anyhow, the whole thing can be managed with the right tax advice. The tax programs that people tend to leverage are 2 main ones. One is a flat tax of 7% for the yearly income if you relocate to a southern region and a municipality with less than 20,000 residents. We have many of those here. So it's an incentive for people to move in these small municipalities that are losing residents that I was talking about. So there's a number of programs that can be used, but it's kind of finite, and you need to make it work within those boundaries. There is a third option. I would say it's more residual. It's the digital nomad visa. The problem with the digital nomad visa is that it's 1 to 2 year allowance. It's renewable, and it's somewhat easily renewable, but for some people who are looking to make more of a permanent move, it can be a little bit unnerving to saying, I'm, liquidating all this stuff in the US to make this move, and then I'm only guaranteed 1 or 2 years. And so that can be also an element of consideration. I had several clients move with that though, and then be able to renew without problems. Now, in all of this, critical point is, where do I go live? What home will I have? And so that's another part of what we offer. Through the help of my mother and her over 40 years experience. We help people find the right home to move in, and we handle end-to-end the real estate search process, identification. We audit the options for them. We help them understand how to look at the market, what makes sense, what to avoid. And then once they have identified what they want, we guide them through closing and securing the deed of ownership, bearing in mind that in some of the programs, a secure accommodation is a prerequisite. So sometimes we really have to make this whole thing work out very early on. And there's intricacies and there's nuances, but quite frankly, that's what we're paid for. So we are guide and counselor and sometimes even psychological help for people who are going through this process, and we try to problem solve as much as we can for anything that comes up.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of decisions, and it's right, like a lot of bureaucracy. It's not like you and I had a conversation. It's not like just moving to another state. It's not like me just moving from
Right.
Maryland to
Yeah.
Florida.
Big change. And listen, Karen, when we put this up, we asked ourselves, what would we have wanted when we relocated? What would I have been prepared to pay for someone to just say, hey, look, here's the key. Please drive me there. Obviously, keep me in the loop of the important decisions and considerations, but I want, as much of support as I can get. Now, big part of our responsibility and role is to provide information, be transparent. In Italy as a country, we have a way of doing things where transparency isn't the primary driver of the way we do things. And then there is the language barrier. And so it becomes very difficult for someone coming from outside to really understand what is going on. We have the benefit of knowing exactly what people are going to struggle with. And so we provide them with all the information. Essentially, I want my clients to be able to make an informed decision about everything that they have to take up. Because, if they're unhappy, guess who's the first person they're going to call?
Right. Exactly.
That's going to be me. And then there's obviously, and we talked about this too, moral and ethical obligations. But most importantly, I want long-term happiness from my clients, considering they're doing a long-term move, right? And I'm going to be the person here that they refer to. So it's very important. But yes, we do see many folks that come to it as if they're just, moving to another states of the United States or to another city in your country. It's really not like that. You are, in many respects, deciding to enter another world. One that is, can be very great and welcoming and you'd probably thrive in, but you need to know what you're getting into.
So if someone is at that point where they are seriously considering looking at relocating, what do you recommend as some of the next steps that they take?
So I think that there's two main camps. There is people who have been here and who have been here on holiday, they liked it, and now they want to move. But obviously their perception is skewed from the vacation, which is, it's a good first impression, but it's not life in Sardinia. Okay. So with them, typically they'll Google, they'll start doing some research, then they'll end up on our website. They understand that we're not like anyone else for the very simple fact this is built for people in their situation. This is not an Italian business with an English translation on the website. We've built this natively for internationals. And so a lot of people understand that. They see, they check our reviews. At this point, we have enough reviews on Trustpilot and on Google. It wasn't always the case, but now, so that they get sort of confident enough, they contact us. I always try to understand where they are at what point. And that's great. Normally that's easier, although I still do a lot of work to try and say, hey, I know you've been here in August or you've been here in July. That's why possibly I would recommend you coming here in January. That town you liked, I want you to see it in January and tell me if it still checks out. Because, if that doesn't work out, there's some other place that could be just as nice where you could be. And then there's people who have never been here, who have read maybe one of my LinkedIn posts that's happened, or they've read an article, or they saw a video on YouTube, and they're like, I'm moving to Sardinia. Like, not even I want to, or like, okay, like, love the energy, but like, maybe we should slow this down. And they're like, yeah, sure. What do I need to know? I'm like, well, right. Cause how do you, where do you start? Right. So typically I like to anchor it to what type of life would you like, what home would you like? And so we anchor it a bit to the type of real estate, type of property they want, because that already narrows down the option. And then I need to know things like, are you coming with kids? Are you kids in school age? How many times do you think you're going to be traveling? So how far you need to be from an airport? And so narrowing that down, create a short list of options. And we always start with the properties. So, tell me what you want. I found it in these different geographies, and then I'll give you an overview of what it means to live there. And then, maybe you'll come down and say, oh, these 3 things I want to see for sure. I'm like, okay, now you need to come here. You need to come here and see for yourself. I can't take you through such a big decision without knowing that what we've done. Like during COVID, this was weird because people couldn't move as easily. So we were in situations where people were seriously considering of coming here blind. It never ended up happening. And I'm actually glad it did not, because I was really concerned that may really not work out. Can you imagine, right? Picking a life on paper, like, could go really well, but definitely very risky. So most of the times then we guide them through coming. When they're here, we accompany them to the viewings. And as we do that, we also show them around and give them a lot of information to help them or orient themselves and understand, the implications of, if you pick this municipality, you have these benefits, but then, grocery shopping is going to happen there. If you need to go to the doctor, it's going to happen there. So a lot of like useful local knowledge that helps direct your intentions so that you can be successful again in where you move and how you move.
It's so interesting how when I talk to so many different professionals on this show, the common denominators with financial planning, and with some of the first questions being really a different flavor of what do you want as the starting point. Like, you have to really know what it is you want. And I imagine the conversations you have with your clients about the real estate is also very connected to the lifestyle that they want. And as you mentioned, children. Are there children? Are you going to be traveling a lot in and out of the country? Or how important is it to you to be, around great restaurants or shops, as socializing? Or do you want something more peaceful and quiet? Right? Like, really know, and things that could make a big difference, big difference, right? And where someone ends
and the
up.
real estate is the anchor of what we do. Because ultimately someone's going to need a home, right? And there's another element that I highlight that I believe it's important. And also I think it's great to mention here because this is a financial theme today. And this, I think, is going to remain true for some years. Purchasing a property in Sardinia, I think it's still a very good long-term investment with immediate positive outcomes. Now, we still have relative low price per square meter. So you continue to purchase at a bargain. Obviously, now what you purchase is super important. That's what we work with our clients on. Because what people do is they go on online portals to see a bunch of stuff and they think it's cheap. Great stuff costs everywhere. But I think if you want to compare it to buying on, say, the west coast of the United States or some coastal enclaves in the East Coast, the same money here would buy you prime real estate and space. So I think some of the people that come to us have made that math. They are like, well, this money could go to a property over here in the United States, but prices are already extremely high. I don't know if this is all a bubble. Sardinia, it's on the upward trend. And it's not unlike other European markets. I know Spain has been that way. Some parts of Portugal have been that way. Some parts of France have been that way. Very overheated. Here it's still like you come in, you buy, you wait for it to go up. And since it's also a very touristic place, rental value is really, really good. A good villa in the right location could be bringing in 70 to 80,000 euro per year in 3 months rental, because that's over the summer. So to the extent that, and we have people who do that, you're not ready to move, but you want to start having a foothold, and you're doing it on the premises, also making an investment. That can also be a very interesting way to do it. Like, well, I'm not moving right now, but let me just buy the house. Let me have it for when I want to go. And then when I'm not there, I can rent it out and recoup some of the money.
Interesting. Okay. And I'm sure that comes with its own complexities, which is probably a whole separate podcast episode. But like you said, the real estate is really important because that's one of the first pieces of the puzzle that you have to solve if it's a prerequisite, right, to move on to the other steps.
Yes.
So one of the last questions I have, I'm curious about, is there a common denominator of these people that you've helped relocate? Are there some common characteristics that you see? Are they more typically, higher income, they're working? Are they more commonly retiring? Are they commonly employed by a multinational company? Any common denominators that you tend to observe?
I think we've seen very different personas. There isn't too much, like, everyone's different. This is personal relocation, right? So as such, it draws in all sorts of people. But I think definitely if you're doing this, it means you have the means for it. Typically, so very important. Financing is extremely hard. If you don't have a source of income in Italy, hard. If you don't have a source of income in the EU, I want to say impossible. So this means that you're probably going to have to buy the house cash. So that already restricts the number of people who can do that. Many, I think, are middle-aged Americans that are 10 years, 15 years out of retirement, or are starting to think about that and are planning for it. And this is part of the way you're approaching it. They have money in the bank. That money could go to a new unit in the US, but they're like, no, I want to diversify. Then there is people who work really well, who have families. And there it's a lot more personal considerations. I've heard it all. I don't want my kids to go to school here. I'm worried about school, like all of the sort of things that are today are becoming a staple of, I've lived in the United States for 5 years. Maybe you should say that. I wouldn't want people listening to think that I'm just making comments without knowing what I'm talking about. I've had a wonderful life in California, but there are certain elements of American life that people don't want to put up with anymore. And so they're starting to, in this global world that we live in, say, okay, do I have to be happy with where I am and what I have, or can I just elect a new favorite place to live in? And so a lot of people are that. They want to engineer their future, if you will. Obviously, that also requires means, so not everybody can do it, and the flexibility with the work. Typically, a lot of people will move and continue whatever they're doing. So they're sort of like agnostic to the geography for the most part in terms of their profession. People who can do that are very well poised for doing this. Or retirees, obviously, right? Because at that point, you don't have the work as a factor, and you just decide where you want to move. That the commonalities are those. Within that is a whole universe, of course.
Okay, great. So just a couple takeaways, as I'm thinking about our conversation, is that, it's helpful to work with a professional, of course, just to help navigate all the intricacies, help you find the right real estate, help you set and understand the expectations, the timelines might be different than, what you're expecting coming from New York City. Sardinia does not operate on the same timelines. And
No.
also the pathways for getting there, if you're working, if you're retired, or if you're a digital creator, nomad. Uh, so a lot to chew on, a lot to chew on. Michele, is there anything else that we didn't get to today that you want to make sure and leave our listeners with?
Well, I think, I want to double click on this last thing you told me. We were just talking about the advice is very important because you wouldn't believe the number of people that come to me. So a lot of people come here on holiday or start Googling and they get enthusiastic and they really respond to the first listing they see or mostly it's like the listings online are what people respond to. It's like almost always not going to end well because the language barrier already is something that's huge. And I'm saying this because I've had a case just this week where someone went in, they had talked to me before, and I coached them on, how to go about it. There was something particularly in which I couldn't directly represent them for a number of reasons. And then they come back and there's genuine misunderstanding, but there's genuine consequences. And so I think you don't want to just do this on a whim. It's a big decision. There is implications. Things here work differently than the United States. Some conversations that are, just pour parler, non-binding in the US have legal implications here and vice versa. Some promises that have been made to you are value zero, but other things you may have said and done may have weight. So you really want to talk to someone who knows exactly what you need to know.
Yes, great point. Yes, and I did see that in your recent LinkedIn post about, something
Yeah,
that you might, if you're coming from the United States and you're used to having like an indication of interest, which maybe isn't binding, you shouldn't have the same expectation. We'll share the links to your website and also to your LinkedIn, also so people can learn more about how to buy a house that was owned by the mafia, since we won't have time to discuss that today.
Yeah, that was today's post.
Yeah. So if that's something you're interested in, just look for the link in the show notes, and you can learn how to what your options are to own a property previously owned by the mafia in Sardinia.
More other parts of Italy, we don't really have a mafia in Sardinia. That's important to know. But,
Or in Italy. Michele, thanks again for joining us today for this conversation.
you, Karen, for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Any opinions expressed by Michele Collu are not necessarily those of Raymond James. Raymond James is not affiliated with nor endorses Michele Collu or Sardiamo. This podcast is for informational purposes only.